Hello and welcome to Individual Soul, the podcast. It's me, Brendan. I hope you are all having a lovely day, week, or month. And on today's episode, I'm here with Jules. How are you, Jules?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for the video version of the podcast.
So Julia was here on either the second or third podcast that I had, episode, sorry. And now you can see her visually on today's episode. So we have been thinking about what to talk to you all about in this episode. And we thought about comparison.
Yeah.
Personal comparison.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what better way to speak to you all about it is with our own personal experiences.
Yeah.
And not only our own personal experiences, but we've come up with 3 different ways to tackle comparison.
Yeah.
So, Jules, what is comparison?
Good question. I feel like comparison is one of those things that it's kind of simple in terms of like definition alone. Comparison is where you make a contrast between 2 different things or 2 different people. And I guess in terms of comparison, I feel like we have all at some point in our life compared ourselves to someone, whether it be a close friend, family,
celebrities,
a sibling,
people at school.
Yep, a colleague. So I feel like in some point of your life, you've compared yourself to another person.
Yeah.
And I feel like with comparison, it can kind of eat you up. Like it can be a really bad thing if it gets kind of out of hand. And for me, a few times in my life, especially in recent years, and it's something that I'm still working at getting better at, but I've always kind of felt that I've fallen into the trap of maybe comparing myself to a bunch of different people for different reasons. And I guess this is why we've kind of spoken about this maybe being a topic that we can speak about together, because I know that Brendan can also relate. And as Bren said, we can draw on our own experiences and I guess kind of go through the 3 ways that we might tackle comparison. So yeah, I guess comparison is one of those things that everyone, it's inevitable.
Yeah, that we all deal with, but it's how I think of it is it's something very toxic that if you can slowly overcome, you can make yourself feel better.
Yeah, and become just a lot happier and content with your life.
With yourself as well,
Definitely.
So to start off the first example of strategy to tackle comparison, we will be speaking to you all about honing in on your own personal skills and strengths as a person.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Jules,
So I guess when we speak about this kind of strategy, what we are talking about is that as individuals, we need to understand that who we are as a person and like the true essence of who we are comes from within us, and we're all unique. And I guess we all have different strengths, different skill sets, and just different things that make us individual. And I think the first step, as Brendan said, to overcoming comparison is being able to really delve and hone in on what are your strengths as a person that kind of sets you apart from other people. So what I've done in the past is, and it's really helped me, and I think this is part of the honing in on your skills, is kind of writing a list of, it can be a mental list, it can be a physical list that you kind of write down. For me, I like to have it on paper because then it can be something that I can look back on.
Or somebody like me, I like to have it all written down on my notes.
Yeah,
on
definitely.
My phone.
Yeah,
different ways.
It's different ways. Some people don't even need to write it down; they just know it. But yeah, like writing down things that are a strength for you, or things that just make you who you are. So, like for Brendan and I, yes, we're quite similar, but if we were to compare what we've written down, they would be 2 different lists because Brendan's Brendan and I'm me, and obviously that's what makes us unique and individual. So writing down different things that make you you, to kind of remind yourself that when you're in the moment or in the moments of comparing yourself to another person, whoever that might be, you can then refer back to your list and think like, okay, yes, they've got this and that's what I want, or what I'm comparing myself and being like, shit, I don't have that. But it's then kind of thinking deeper and realizing that there is more
to yourself.
Yeah, more to yourself and more to life. And what you're comparing yourself by, whatever it might be, is literally like it's so miniature that in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really mean all that much.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say just about this list is when you're writing this list or whatever you're doing with the list, you kind of need to make sure that the list is not you downplaying on the person that you're comparing yourself to. So for example, if you're comparing yourself to a colleague, you don't then think of all the things that you have that your colleague doesn't have. At the end of the day, the list needs to be about you.
Yeah. It needs to refer all about you.
Yeah.
Because if you refer it onto somebody else, then I don't know, then it becomes toxic as well.
Yeah, because then it's like, it turns into like a competition.
Yeah.
Because if you've got someone that, and again, like for me, this has happened to me in the past where there's been a few particular people that I compare myself to. And then I'm thinking in my mind, if my list was in reference to that person or people, as you said, it would just be toxic and it would be
it's like a competition,
and it would just be like a vicious cycle, and you're never going to get you're never going to overcome comparison if you are constantly trying to better yourself, but in line or parallel to the person that you're comparing yourself to. I think it will make sense more when we go into the second topic. So we said that you need to make the list about you and your skill set and not in reference to anyone else. And this ties into
the second one
point
being understanding that comparison should only involve you.
Yeah. And people are probably thinking like, what do you mean by that? Because like comparison is obviously where you're comparing
with
two different
else.
people.
Yep.
But yeah, so something that I've learned recently is, yes, that comparison should only involve yourself. And let me kind of explain what I mean. And I'm going to use a quote. There was this quote, I can't remember who said it to me, but the quote reads, "The only person that you should be comparing yourself to is the person that you were yesterday."
Boom. Jules tells me that all the time and I just think, wow, that's so good.
It's honestly so simple, but it just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Because it reminds me that like life is like an evolutionary process. We as humans want to strive to be better, and we work towards being the best version of ourselves.
Yep.
And then, removing that comparison of you comparing yourself to other people, if you shift that and then you kind of shift it into the mentality of you're comparing yourself to who you were, like that's amazing. You're going to be better and better and better, and just you're going to be so much more content with who you are, because you can actually see that you
are improving.
Yeah, you are improving, and it's not a competition between you and anyone else. It's a competition between you and you in yourself.
Yeah.
That is what keeps me in check a lot, and I've been working on this. I'm going to say working on comparison for a while now, but it's only been in the last 6 or so months where I have really shifted my mindset, and that mentality of
you have to work on yourself.
Yeah, like
just compare yourself with yourself.
Yeah, that's really shifted.
And sorry, you.
No, go.
In saying that, actually, I think the best way to understanding to compare with yourself is you need to not only have conversations with yourself, but you need to have those sort of conversations with like close friends, family, or I don't know, somebody that you trust with. And when you like have those conversations with people and you can be open with them about
the way you're feeling,
but the way that you are comparing yourself with others, and you know that it's toxic, but you want to try to make a change, those people will hopefully they have good advice for you, but those people will give you that advice to help you shift that mentality.
And I also think it's like being open to getting support, definitely. And that support, like for some people it might be going to therapy or things like that, speaking to like a neutral person. But what I was going to say, in addition to getting support, it's also like being receptive. I know this is kind of like a different topic that I'm bringing in, but it's being receptive to what
others are saying.
Yeah, like if someone's got criticism for you, constructive criticism to make you a better person, that's what you should be really focusing on. If you think it's something that you're like, shit, I do need to work on that. You need to be, receptive to these things. And maybe going back to that list, maybe you could show like close family or friends that list that you've made for yourself of all your strengths and skill sets. And maybe they might add to that and say, well, I think you're incredible at this. I think you need to work on that. So it's all about just striving to be the best person you can be. And then when you when you strive to be the best person you can be, there's actually no need to compare yourself to others because you've become the person that you want to be.
Okay, so the third strategy and the last one is no two humans can be the same. Julia, what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I really think it's about understanding that there's no one that's the same. Like there's no two humans, as Brendan said, that are the same. And we've all had different experiences, different upbringings, different relationships. And at the end of the day, we all have different genetics. Like that's a huge kind of part as well. We're so different. We're individual souls. Like,
yeah, no, 100%. Like the one thing I think about that when you say we're all different, human genetics, I think there's some people, and I'm pretty sure I've said this in a previous episode, there's some people that are the best at doing 100-meter long sprint, Usain Bolt, all those sort of people. But then there's other people like Bill Gates or I don't know, Steve Jobs, who they can't do a 100-meter sprint, but they can do software engineering, running a team, like because it's within them.
Yeah, and that's they're working towards their strengths.
Yeah, like I can't do your job,
and I can't do your job. I don't know,
because like it's just not within us.
Yeah,
you know?
No, definitely.
But that's okay. It's whether you want to be okay with it or not. You know, and then it comes down to the comparison of competition. Is you think to yourself, well, I can't do it, but I want to push myself to try to do it, and then you realize that you're just trying
to become someone maybe you're not.
Yeah, I don't know, my take.
No, I like that. Yeah. That's good. I was just going to say in reference to like having different genetics, this is kind of me drawing on my own personal experience and something that I've struggled with for a while. And I know that lots of women, and I'm sure men as well, so obviously we live in a world that is completely now, it's just all online. Like a lot of it is online. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, the list goes on. For me, what I've always kind of wanted to be is I've always wanted to be this really petite, like I just want to be super petite, super thin, like, and people are going to be like, why do you want to be like this? Well, this is what I want to be. Yeah, super thin, like no boobs, flat chested, and just feel like everything that I put on will look good on me and all of this blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, I know that it's in my genetics that I'm never going to have small boobs. I'm never going to be a really petite girl, as I could exercise heaps and heaps. I could do like just be out of control, restrict my diet and things like that. But I know for a fact I will never get to where I want to get.
Yeah.
Because it's just not something that I can get to, because who I am and what makes up me is not, that doesn't allow for that.
Yeah, and shout out to all the girls, because I feel as though a lot of women have that sort of mentality within their head and not realize that it's just okay to be themselves.
Yeah.
And there's no point in comparing yourself with all these A-list celebrities and stuff.
Yeah,
because
but sometimes,
like
they're
like
all
sort of
and it's a lot of that is fake as
yeah.
well. But for me, like, I'm not even comparing myself to the celebrities.
Yeah,
like,
no,
it's
it's
just some ordinary people.
Yeah.
Like, even some of my friends that I'm like, I want that body.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could work really hard to get it,
Yeah.
but it would not be what I wanted.
No.
Because I physically can't get to that petiteness, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do you get me?
No, that makes sense. And that's also the same with guys as well. They want to have that six-pack body and just be
and
6 foot tall. It's like guys that are 5'6" need to realize that once you're like 25, you're not going to get to 6 foot. Like,
no, like,
and
it's
you just need to be like proud. You know,
you just need to embrace what you just need to embrace what you have.
Yeah, exactly right. You need to embrace what you have, because at the end of the day, like, you are you and somebody else is themselves, and that's it.
Yeah. And what you just said really ties into I feel like Brendan might have mentioned this in one of his other podcasts, or maybe I've mentioned it in the podcast that I was saying, but there's always going to be someone who has more money than you. There's always going to be someone who has traveled to more countries than you. There's always going to be someone who has spoken more languages, who speaks more languages than you. And the list goes on.
Yep.
Like, there's always going to be someone that you perceive is better than you.
Yeah, and sorry to cut you off, but I think I did say this in another episode.
Yeah, you probably did. We speak about it all the time.
But it's as though you're always going to be the middle person. There's always somebody that's below you that is striving to be you, and there's you trying to strive to be somebody else. So you're always going to be that middle person.
100%. And that's you have to come to terms with that is just how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But then also understanding these three kind of strategies that we've said in terms of honing in on your own skills and striving to be the best version of you. 2, like understanding that no two humans are the same. And 3, also understanding that, comparison should only involve you and the person that you were yesterday.
Yeah.
That's it. But what I wanted to say, so obviously Bren and I had spoken about this is what we wanted to talk about. And driving from Bren's house to my house tonight, I was just in the car and I was just like thinking about comparison and just like, getting fixated on it a little bit because I was like, this is what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But what I kind of thought of was...
Hold on, is this the analogy?
Yeah.
We've got a Julia analogy coming in.
What I thought of is we don't compare tomatoes and cucumbers as an example. So we don't compare tomatoes and cucumbers because they're so different. So why do we compare ourselves to other people who are also so different? Like, I just don't get it. Like, it just does
blows my mind.
Yeah, it blows my mind too. Blows my mind too. I remember I asked, I think it was my auntie or someone in my family, do you like pasta or do you like pizza better? And she was like, oh my God, that is such a hard question. How am I supposed to answer that, Jules? They're so different. And I was like, now thinking back, I'm like, yeah, pasta and pizza are so different. I get that. But you and another person are also so different. Yeah. So why are you comparing yourself to them?
Yeah.
And like, I'm saying that like, what the hell? Because I've been doing it my whole life too. And it's like, why are we doing that?
Yeah. Why are we comparing ourselves? I think once you actually realize that, wow, why am I actually comparing myself? And this is actually not a good thing. You'll start to realize, and then if you want to make a conscious effort to try to stop, then you start to realize, well, damn, I feel a lot better for not comparing, because there's no need to compare.
Yeah.
It's just toxic, as I keep on mentioning.
100%. And like, don't get us wrong. We're not saying like, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, because we do it too. We're humans as well. But I think you just have to remind yourself that it's something that's going to happen, and you need to acknowledge when it happens, and if it's happening too much, and maybe come back to these 3 things. I highly recommend you to write that list, because you'll be surprised how much that helps you, and you'll actually see like, shit, I actually have a lot of things that I'm good at, a lot of things that make me me, a lot of things that people might not have or might not come as easy as another, like
that you've achieved.
Yeah, 100%. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy, and it ties into what this podcast is called. It's called Individual Soul.
Exactly.
Because remember,
right.
We're all individuals.
Exactly right.
Was there anything you wanted to add, like about any of your kind of experiences? Because I know, like, being like a businessman, and you know, you've had your own kind of struggles with.
Yeah, I think the only thing I can say to you is I used to compare myself in regards to a lot of business stuff, how people were operating their own businesses and what I wasn't doing and what I wanted to do that I could see others were doing. And then I started to realize that, well, damn, in a way that comparison was unhealthy. It did help, like, comparison in a nutshell does help to a certain degree.
It can motivate
you, but for majority of the time it doesn't motivate you. It just creates this toxic mindset of you needing to compete with those other people. So once I started to realize, well, damn, I need to really stop this, I stopped comparing myself in regards to, well, I try to stop myself comparing with anything, and it's helped me a lot because it's helped me just grow personally and be able to grow my own businesses, because I'm not trying to focus on somebody else's, because I operate really different in compared to how somebody else would operate like a business. Well, should we wrap this up?
Yeah, I think we should wrap it up.
To wrap it up, I hope you have a lovely
day, week, or month, wherever you are in the world.
Wherever you are in the world. And
thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening and for watching. And
we will be back next time.
We'll be back
sometime
next time.
soon.
Or sometime soon.
We love doing this together.
We love it. And we love you all. Thank you for listening.
Over and out.
Bye.
Bye.